I never imagined following my nanny would reveal a heartbreaking secret that changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Tuesday, but it felt like the sky was brooding, heavy with secrets. I watched from the window as my nanny, Emma, slipped out the door, her long coat billowing behind her like a shadow. Something about her movements felt strange, almost frantic. Was it the way she clutched her bag tight against her side or the way her eyes darted around like she was checking for ghosts? I didn't know then, but that day marked the beginning of a storm, one that would change my life forever. Emma had always been more than just a nanny. She was my anchor, the one person who knew how to calm my racing heart when the world felt too loud. Her laughter filled the empty corners of our big house, echoing like music. My parents were lost in their own worlds, my mother buried in her art, my father in his business. I craved Emma's presence, her warmth, her stories. But that day, as I slipped on my coat and decided to follow her, a creeping sense of dread formed a knot in my stomach. I dashed out, my heart pounding in rhythm with my quickening steps. The air was crisp, biting at my cheeks. I rounded the corner and watched her weave through crowds like a whisper, until she slipped into an alley. The world blurred around me, the bustle of the city fading to nothing but the sound of my heartbeat, loud in my ears. Shadows surrounded her, a group of men loitering near the entrance of a dimly lit building. Their faces were unfamiliar, their whispers low and conspiratorial. Peeking from behind a dumpster, I held my breath, every inch of me trembling. Emma was speaking now, her voice barely a thread in the thick silence. But then, one of the men stepped forward, towering and foreboding. She hesitated, her eyes widened, and my heart skipped. Something sinister was brewing. I was no longer just a viewer, I felt myself getting pulled into a dark web of intrigue, confusion, and terror. The man reached out, and Emma recoiled slightly. What was happening? In that moment, the joy I found in Emma's company twisted into fear. I clutched the edge of the dumpster, nails digging into the cold metal. I had to know. I couldn't turn back now. Suddenly, Emma turned and her eyes caught mine. Frozen. A flash of recognition crossed her face, and it was haunting. I could see the pain, the fear, the guilt swirling in her gaze like a tempest. It shattered me. I didn't want to believe this was the woman who had comforted me every night, who wiped my tears and read me stories. Who was she really? In that split second, everything I thought I knew about my life, about her, shattered like glass. I felt the world slip beneath me, a freefall into an abyss of uncertainty. I faced the question tumbling into my heart with piercing clarity: what was she hiding? I took a step forward, voice trembling, ready to confront the truth. But just then, the alley darkened, cloaked in mystery. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The weight of that moment pressed down on me, the alley a constricting tunnel filled with swirling shadows. Emma's eyes lingered on me, hanging between dread and desperation. It felt like the universe had twisted time, slowing my heartbeat to a crawl while the chaos around me waited to erupt. I wanted to run to her, to reassure her that I was still her child, the one she had carefully nurtured, but words faltered and then crumbled like brittle leaves underfoot. Please, just come with me, she whispered, a plea that pierced my heart but also filled me with confusion. She backed away from the men, terror reflecting in her dark irises. As she retreated, the towering figure moved closer, menacing and deliberate, his smile a mask of malice. I was caught in a storm I never wished to enter, unsure whether to embrace the familiar warmth of Emma or be drawn back into the safety of the world I had once known. Then the fear morphing into icy determination hardened within me. Emma! My voice broke the tension, as fragmented as I felt inside. What is going on? You need to tell me. She glanced at me, and the pain in her expression sliced through the chaos. You shouldn't be here, Lily, she replied, her voice trembling, as if it were on the verge of shattering too. It's not safe. But I clutched at her words, as if they could provide answers to the tumult swirling within my heart. I don't care if it's safe. You're my nanny. You've always protected me. Why are you hiding? Her glance flicked to the men, filled with trepidation and something else, an emotion too raw to name. Lily, please. She reached out towards me, her fingers trembling as she intended to bridge the distance. But just at that moment, one of the men stepped forward and positioned himself between us. Time to go, Emma, he growled. His aggression was as palpable as a heavy fog, thickening the air. A surge of desperation shot through me. I couldn't let them take her away. My heart would shatter like the glass that had already fallen. I took a step into the light, every instinct screaming at me to defend her. No. You can't. Emma snapped, her gaze to me, panic boiling over in her eyes. Lily, don't, but my soft plea turned into a steel resolve. I'm not going anywhere. Then, as if the universe itself conceded to the chaos unleashing around us, a car careened down the alley, tires screeching against the asphalt. It came to a halt near us, and from it stepped a figure I recognized all too well. My father. Get in the car, Lily. He shouted, his voice commanding and sharp, grasping my wrist with a force that anchored me to the present. Dad! I cried. I could hardly breathe. Emma's eyes widened in horror, and confusion blended with fear. No. You can't trust him, Lily. But as I was tugged back toward the car, I felt my world slip further from my grasp. My heart had betrayed me, aching for Emma, a tug-of-war between the woman who had been my unwavering North Star and the man whose very presence felt tainted. The men, momentarily stunned, exchanged glances, visibly thrown off by the sudden arrival. We'll finish this later, Emma, one barked, the threat lingering in the air. Stop! I was reeling, each frantic heartbeat a clash of emotions, but I wrenched myself free from my father's hold, stepping back toward Emma, my eyes pleading. What is happening? What do they want with you? Then, out of desperation, Emma reached into her bag, revealing something wrapped in cloth. Lily, this is important, but as she unwrapped the item, revealing a small glimmering object, the world around me blurred, and my heart thudded painfully against my ribs. It was a locket, the design intricate, familiar, and yet it belonged to a life I didn't know she had. Emma, please! I screamed as a gust of wind howled through the alley, cloaking us in uncertainty. Who are you? Just then, the men lurched forward, and Emma's voice fell to a whisper. Lily, open it. You'll understand everything. Time froze as I hesitated, torn between fear and an urgent pull toward the truth. There was a choice before me, a choice that trembled like the beginnings of a story waiting to unravel. As I opened the locket, the world around me faded away, shadows shrinking into the corners as a revelation loomed, painful, heartbreaking, and life-altering, and then darkness enveloped the alley, a shout echoing behind me. The truth would have to wait. The silence that followed felt like a thick fog settling over us, suffocating and disorienting. I stood there, hands trembling in the sudden quiet, staring at the intricate locket that now lay in my palm. It was a bridge connecting my past to a present filled with fragments, pieces of a puzzle I couldn't yet fathom. Emma's urgent breath was barely audible over the chaos that swirled in my head. I could sense the tension around her, the way her shoulders slumped as she prepared for whatever storm was about to break. Just as I prepared to ask her again what it all meant, the chilling growl of one of the men broke through the silence. Get her! We need to go, now! His voice sliced through the heaviness, and suddenly, it was as though time had resumed its relentless march, pushing us all toward a crashing wave of uncertainty. As I raised my eyes to Emma, our connection felt electrified, sparking a deeper intensity between us that was both terrifying and hopeful. I'm not leaving you, I declared, my voice rising in defiance, even as the men advanced with a mix of relish and urgency. But before I could truly grasp my agency, my father surged forward, pulling me against him with an iron grip. Lily! You don't understand, he gasped, panic coloring his face, but it was a flicker of fear that only fanned the flames of confusion burning in my gut. "Let me go!" I screamed, fighting against him with all my strength. "I have to know what's going on." Before I could finish, Emma stepped forward, her expression fierce and protective. "No. You mustn't let them take you, Lily." Those words hit me like an arrow as I caught a glimpse of the fear and determination knitting her brow. I wanted to scream in frustration because my feelings were a cyclone inside, wild and swirling, leaving me gasping. I wanted both her and my father and felt the abyss of losing them both too. The distraction allowed one of the men to break loose, charging ahead like an animal unleashed. But just as his hand reached out toward me, a concrete wall of protection appeared. My father launched himself forward, shoving the intruder back with all his might, and a scuffle erupted. It was chaotic, a cacophony of shouting and the pounding of feet, each sound an echo of my unraveling. With Emma's fear-laden gaze locked on me, I flipped the locket open, its small hinge creaking as the silver casing parted. Inside were photographs, two smiling faces I didn't recognize at first glance, their eyes glinting with joy but tinged with something else I couldn't name. My heart beat faster as I realized I was holding a piece of a forgotten history, snippets isolated from the truth I longed to grasp. "I warned you about this, Emma." My father's voice thundered in the alley, snapping me back to the present, fury and desperation colliding on his face. "I told you to stay away from her." "Stay away from me?" I shrieked, feeling the swell of emotion threatening to drown me. "What are you talking about? I deserve to know the truth." My defiance rang against the noise of the scuffle as Emma, keeping her distance, trembled yet held a firm resolve. "Lily, look again," Emma whispered, breaking through my tumult. "They're not just photos. They carry the answer to everything." With trembling fingers, I studied the images more closely. The first was of a woman who looked strikingly similar to Emma, eyes wide with passion and dreams, laughter captured in a moment forever lost. The second showed a man, his features sharp yet softened by love, wrapped around the woman as they beamed in a moment that felt untouched by reality. "What do they mean, Emma?" I asked, feeling the weight of the world pressing against my chest, as if the truth I sought might crush me. A note of melancholy washed over her face as she hesitated. "They are my past, Lily, and they are part of yours too." Just then, the first man pushed my father aside and lunged for me. Time slowed again, the air heavy with shock. I clutched the locket tighter, its edges digging into my skin as adrenaline coursed through my veins. "No!" I screamed, a primal sound of survival. Mingling with fierce despair. In an instant, Emma moved, intercepting the man with a force I never expected. "Get away from her!" she yelled, shoving him hard enough that he stumbled back. "You will not take her." It was an act of bravery that left me breathless. I felt something shift inside me, a resolve taking root as my confusion battled against the deepening shadows. But before I could shout my gratitude, the second man surged forward to grab Emma, lifting her effortlessly as if she were a weightless doll, his grin cruel and victorious. "Enough games!" he spat, his hold on her tightening, the danger now evident on both sides. "Emma!" I cried, caught between holding on to my father and rushing to save the woman I'd come to trust and love like family. My heart raced as I saw the betrayal in my father's eyes clashing with his sense of duty, the relentless conflict mirroring the chaos in my own heart. "No!" Emma cried out, her voice piercing the frantic pandemonium. "Lily, listen! Open the locket, and only when you understand, seek the truth." Everything erupted in a maelstrom of twisted connections and passionate pleas as the world around me faded anew. In that moment, I felt the weight of the choice solidify within my very core. Will I have the courage to embrace the truth, no matter the cost? But before I could respond to that call, I felt a sharp pain bloom across my vision as darkness swept in once again, an overwhelming and confusing abyss. The last thing I heard was the echo of Emma's pain scream, lingering in my ears like an unanswered question. As the darkness enveloped me, it carried a weight I didn't understand, a heaviness threaded with a sense of impending doom. I felt myself float for a moment, suspended between two worlds. The chaos of the alley faded to whispers, shadows dancing just out of reach. This was unlike anything I had ever experienced, an unmooring of reality, where only fragments of sound lingered. Emma's voice faded to a whisper, a haunting echo that promised answers I desperately craved. I blinked back into awareness, the alleyway's harsh lights blasting across my vision. Pain throbbed in my temple, a reminder of the world's physicality and its harshness. I groaned, shifting on the cold, hard pavement beneath me, disoriented. Desperation clawed at my chest as I registered the chaos around me once more. The first man had been momentarily distracted, allowing my father to regain his footing and wrestle free in a bid to reach me. There was a moment, fragile and fleeting, as our eyes met, fear and determination woven together. But it shattered as the second man tightened his grip on Emma, his face twisted with sadistic excitement. "Let her go!" I screamed, pushing myself up on unsteady legs, my heart racing. The locket dangled from my grasp, a talisman of truths yet to be unraveled, code to a world I had never known. "Do you think you can save her?" The first man laughed, his voice laced with malicious amusement. "You don't even know what you're up against." With an anguished look, my father faced me, as if my proximity to danger unhinged his resolve. "Stay back, Lily!" he barked, his voice strained and full of fear. But deep within me, a different force began to ignite, a flicker that leaped in the face of danger. "Lily, now!" Emma cried, her voice sharp as the edge of fate. "The locket! Find the key!" Without thinking, I pressed the locket against my chest, grasping it tightly as I pulled myself to my feet. My fingers brushed against its cool surface, remembering the frozen smiles within. The woman who looked like Emma and the man whose features seemed imbued with a painful familiarity. They could hold the answers to everything that was spiraling out of control. Desperate to piece the past together, I flung the locket open, allowing the faint light to catch the images. With bated breath, I searched for something, a clue, a revelation hidden in their happiness. My eyes flickered between the two photographs. "What was it you wanted me to see?" I mumbled, desperation clawing at my throat. Emma's fear grew with every passing second, entwined with a fierce urge to protect. "They are more than just images, Lily. They were taken during the happiest period of my life." But it didn't last, because reality shifted. Reality shifted. I felt the walls closing in. As the realization struck, glimmers of understanding unfolded in the depths of the chaos. Perhaps these weren't just memories but fragments of a larger truth, a truth woven into the fabric of my existence. "Look at the background." Emma's voice became a frantic whisper as she fought against her captor. "It's the same house where we spent summers, the one where I lived with my—" "Forgive me, Lily, but it's not what you think. You need to understand how all this connects." But before I could grasp it fully, the first man lunged at me, fueled by rage and desperation. I barely dodged him, but I stumbled, falling back against the brick wall, the heavy presence of dread swarming me. The locket slipped from my fingers but hung by its chain, dangling tauntingly before me, a symbol of hope amidst the chaos. "Enough!" growled the second man, securing his hold on Emma. "Time for you to learn what you're truly involved in." If I could just get to Emma, if I could bridge that distance between us where courage dwelled. But just as the instinct overtook me, determined to save her, I felt an explosion of pain flare in my chest, sharper and deeper than anything before. Everything came cascading down as a blinding flash of light ricocheted through the alley, the heat consuming me. The men, confused, released their holds. In that moment of chaos, I saw my father, eyes wide with horror as he instinctively shielded me. It was a second of clarity, a heartbeat of understanding. I was the key. This was my legacy, tangled in a web of histories and truths waiting to be unveiled, and then it happened. The remnants of that confusion, the unanswered threads of longing and fear, spiraled into a voice that echoed through the haze. "Find your truth, Lily, before it's too late." But time was no longer on my side. The man at Emma's back regained his composure, his grip tightening around her throat. The breath caught in my lungs as sheer terror flashed across Emma's face. I reached for her, but panic paralyzed me, a hollow echo of dread swirling in my gut. Then something unimaginable dawned, where all paths converged, where all truths demanded to be acknowledged. I had to find the truth not only for Emma but for myself as well, and just as I prepared to rush into the storm that beckoned, a crushing realization struck me. My father wasn't just shielding me from the danger, he was the danger. Frozen in that moment of dawning horror, I stared at his face, the lines of betrayal etched deep in his skin, twisted with secrets yet to be revealed. "Dad?" My voice trembled, uncertainty coursing through me, for I was standing on the precipice of my own shattered reality. The world tilted beneath my feet as I realized the mountain I was about to climb, one that held all our lives in a delicate balance, poised between love and the darkest of truths. And in that moment, fear morphed into courage, for I knew that sinking further into the depths of this reality was the only way to protect what I held dear. As I surged forward, a heart thundering in my chest, darkness loomed ever closer, a warning as I confronted the abyss. Behind me, ominous shadows whispered truths I was yet to understand, where two hearts intertwined could either crush the spirit or ignite a light. "Lily!" Emma's agonized scream pierced the air. I took a breath, feeling every ounce of love and defiance surge through me, unwilling to let fate claim us both. I raced toward the brink of revelation, but the question echoed through the air: would I be ready to face the truth when it found me? The alley twisted into a dizzying blur as I pushed forward, the urgency clawing at my heels. The sound of Emma's voice, steeped in terror, drummed in my ears. "Lily, please!" "You can't!" It cut off suddenly, and I felt the weight of my heart. Every instinct screamed for me to safeguard her, to shield her from the impending darkness crawled closer on all sides. My father's expression morphed from concern to something darker, a shadow that lurked beneath the surface. I stared at him, the man who had been my protector, my guide, and felt as if I were viewing a stranger. Betrayal wove itself into the very fabric of our relationship, fabric I had cherished, but was now fraying at the seams. "Dad, what's happening?" I managed to choke out, my voice barely above a whisper, the truth teetering on the edge. His face tightened, pain etched deeply within his features. "You need to understand, Lily, it's not what you think." "Then tell me," I yelled, exasperated, tears mixing with the fear surging through me. "What is it? Why did you have to hide everything?" "Because," he said, swallowing hard, "some truths can shatter lives. Protecting you from this world, it was the only way I knew how." "Protecting me?" The irony pierced through my anger. "By chaining me to lies? By letting Emma know?" It was never about her, but his words were cut short by a fierce noise, the tightening of Emma's relation brightening my awareness. The second man's grip was becoming vicious. I watched in horror as he pulled Emma closer. "Time's up, sweetheart," he taunted. "This is where the real fun begins." A broken sob escaped my lips, but something deep within me ignited a desire to save her more than I feared the danger that lay ahead. Crowding shadows around us melted away in my haze of determination. I locked eyes with my father, trying to reach him in that place of fear. "You have to help me. We can't lose her." He recoiled, but not without a flicker of remorse. Just as the man tightened his hold on Emma, I lunged forward, and what happened next coursed like a spectral current. The alley brightened with a sudden energy, flickers of light dancing, alive and swirling around the locket clasped in my fist. My breath quickened as the locket responded, pulsating warmth into my palm. "The key!" screamed a voice in my mind, reverberating with urgency. Memories flooded through me, visions of summer spent laughing, a shadowy figure slipping past my thoughts, leading me deeper into uncertainty. The hidden truth embedded in the locket deepened, revealing a connection I had been yearning to uncover. This new fire, vibrant yet volatile, propelled me forward. "Stand back!" I shouted, disbelief rising in my father's eyes as I raised the locket before me. It glimmered in the dim light, becoming a beacon of hope and desperation. Would it help decipher the tangled web? Or would it sever the last strands binding us to our disposable reality? I felt propelled into the unknown, ready to reveal truths that could ground us or shatter our fragile existence. "Stop, Lily!" My father's voice thundered with urgency and horror. But there was a desperate hope in his eyes. Perhaps he recognized something within the locket, just as I had. "Please don't!" The world shifted again, coiling as the energy surged. The alley warped and twisted, and shadows began to shift, the presence of another entity materializing from the darkness. The air crackled with tension, the very ground beneath us trembling, a warning, an echo of something hidden and deep and ancient. The second man faltered for just a moment, his grip on Emma loosening as fear mingled with confusion. What is that? He stammered, eyes wide as he took a cautious step back. At that moment, the barrier between past and present thinned, and an apparition emerged, a woman whose ethereal form looked so familiar yet distant. Her eyes mirrored Emma's, those same shades of vulnerability and strength. She reached toward us, a silent plea forming on her lips. Find the truth, Lily. Don't let fear guide you. My heart raced, and a surge of understanding flowed through me. Emma's lifeline trembled precariously, and I knew the key was not merely the locket but the intertwining of lives, our shared existence. Time held its breath, staring back at me with questions yet unanswered. Lily! Emma called again, panic flooding her words, grounding me amidst the chaos. I could see the desperation etched on her face, mirrored in the semblance of my own reflection and my father's anguish. In that fleeting moment, I realized that there was a force uniting us, a truth waiting to be revealed, where love collided with the darkest of lies. I forced my gaze onto my father. You need to help me. But just as I declared my determination, another jolt of energy shot through the alley. The woman's figure pulsed with an intensity. This connection was not just a beacon, it held chaos and certainty intermingled. Suddenly, the second man lunged for me. The moment froze as Emma's scream pierced the air, echoing off the brick walls, and I was jerked back into reality, darkness swallowing us whole. Lily! My father's desperate cry echoed as the darkness surged around us, and I felt myself losing hold not just of the locket but of my sense of self. In the depths of my mind, a question screamed louder than the chaos surrounding us: was I about to uncover the truth or plunge deeper into the heart of despair? And in that moment, as the two worlds collided, I braced myself against the storm, all while fearing I was but a step away from losing everything I held dear. The echo of my father's voice was swallowed by a consuming darkness, panic rising like bile in my throat. The world felt surreal, distorting and shifting with each heartbeat. I couldn't tell where I ended and the chaos began. I was encased in a whirlwind of shadow and light. My grip on the locket tightened, providing a pulsing heartbeat of its own against my palm. Lily, stay with me. The sonic thrust of my father's voice jolted me, grounding me briefly. His fear felt tangible, connecting us through this tempest. The apparition, shimmering and almost angelic, seemed to hover between the chaos and the affection of a mother, urging me with every ounce of its being to find the truth. I'll save you, Emma! I shouted, a fierce oath blooming within me. The second man hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his hardened features as the darkness seemed to ripple around him. I had one fleeting moment, one thin sliver of time to act before he reclaimed his grip on her. With a surge of adrenaline, I stepped forward, locket raised like a torch in the night. You think you can take her? I challenged him, shaking with a mix of fear and defiance. Let her go. But the darkness shifted, and shadows morphed around his figure like the tendrils of a storm. As I leaned forward, the first thread of desperation clawed at me, the thought that I could be too late. Emma's terrified eyes anchored my resolve. I could see the pleading behind her fear. The tension broke into a cacophony of clarity, a flash of understanding igniting in my mind. In that instant, the locket responded, vibrating with an energy I had not tapping into before. Images spiraled into view filled with moments of love, laughter, and tears intertwined with secrets too heavy to hold. I saw my childhood, but also glimpses of a woman shrouded in mystery, whose shadow danced at the edge of each memory. My mother, the woman behind the apparition that was holding out her hand. Lily, her voice seeped into my consciousness, thick with echoes of sorrow. The truth is hidden within your heart. You are stronger than the darkness. Just let her go. Emma screamed again, her voice breaking like glass shattering into a million pieces, even as I fought against the grip of despair pulling me down. The second man's lips twisted into a cruel grin. Truth? What truth? There is only pain in knowing who you really are, he spat, his voice like venom. Suddenly, the alley shuddered around us, the sounds of distant sirens growing closer, a tiny beacon of hope. From behind, a shadow shifted, revealing the figure of another man, a tall silhouette emerging from the fog. My heart raced. Could it be help? Or yet another threat? Step away from her. The figure demanded, voice steady, holding authority that cut through the thick emotion suffocating me. As he drew closer, the man's features sharpened into focus the familiar contours of my older brother, Ethan. Ethan! I felt an overwhelming rush of relief and confusion wash over me. How did you? But before I could finish, the unexpected reunion crumbled beneath the weight of the moment. Lily, you have to trust me, he shouted, eyes darting between me and the second man, intent on spotting the danger. I can help, it's you, I cried, suddenly grasping the intertwining thread of our existence. The intervention of my brother highlighted the betrayals that had shadowed our lives. Lily, this isn't a game. You have to leave with me. It's dangerous here. His shock at seeing me involved in the chaos morphed into fierce protection as he stumbled closer. I want to leave, Emma. The denial pierced through me like ice. The loyalty I had vowed to her clashed with the instinct to protect my family at all costs. No, listen to me, Ethan rasped, desperation clear in his eyes. They want what's inside that locket. We can't let them have it. We can't let them have you. The second man's facade cracked, a flicker of fear crossing his features as he caught sight of us both ganging up against him. You think this is just about that girl? He snarled, eyes narrowing dangerously. There are forces at play that you can't even begin to comprehend. But the truth churned like a storm inside me, now the very essence of my being battling between the ties that bound our family and how deeply Emma had woven herself into my heart. What do you mean? I hollered. What forces? Everything you know, every truth you cling to is about to change. The man's voice dripped with menace, as if he was relishing in the moment. In a split second, the alley transformed again, thickening the veil between light and darkness. Get back, Lily! Ethan reached out, trying to steer me away from the oncoming tempest. I glanced at Emma, eyes wide, and saw the bond that transcended our struggles. The fear in her eyes matched the storm surging within me. And in that moment, trapped between fighting for her or my family's secrets, I felt it, the echo of strength through love, through truth. Could I refuse to surrender either so easily? As the shadows thickened, and their whispers grew louder, reality teetered on the precipice of something unfathomable. A new revelation hardened, pulsing in the back of my mind, but its full weight remained just out of reach. Lily, now! Ethan urged urgently as the alley began to tremble again. The ominous energy swirled, sucking us into its depths. Familiar faces faded into the mist, and I took a step towards my brother just as Emma's scream echoed once more, only to be replaced by the piercing clarity of truth calling me home. Just as the shadows threatened to engulf us entirely, a single thought resonated with chilling clarity: each choice had its price, and I feared that by choosing one path, I would lose her forever. In that moment of indecision, I had to face the reality that perhaps the most painful truth of all would shatter everything I thought I knew. The air tingled with the urgency of unspoken words and promises veiled in shadows. Just as the darkness began closing in, a bustling energy erupted nearby, a cascade of voices and distant lights breaking through the alley's suffocating gloom. My heart raced with anticipation and dread as a flicker of hope stirred within me, momentarily blinding me to the chaos surrounding us. Lily! Ethan's voice echoed through the tumult, urging me back. Yet I was rooted to the spot, caught between the choices laid out before me, and the weight of desperation pressed down, refusing to let me go. Emma! I called, my voice cracking with emotion, my eyes searching for hers in the encroaching shadows. Don't worry, I'm here. A fleeting moment of connection sparked between us, a glimmer of reassurance tangled in the chaos. The second man, his expression now devoid of the confidence he had once embodied, hesitated, glancing nervously down the alley where the voices were growing louder. They could be our salvation, or they could lead to our undoing. It honestly felt as if the very air reacted to the fluctuations of our fears, swirling and crashing around us, waiting for a chance to unleash its pent-up fury. Lily, please, just step back now, Ethan said, his brow furrowed with determination. Trust me, we can figure this out together, just trust me. Every word he spoke seemed to resonate deep within me, stirring memories of our childhood, each laugh echoing in the quiet anguish of our tumultuous past. but the past was also laden with secrets, those unspoken moments and hidden truths buried deep under layers of hurt and betrayal. I could still hear our mother's laughter drifting through the halls and the warmth of sunlight spilling through open windows, however far removed they felt now, but the warmth was only a mirage in the face of the dark reality before me. Even as I fought between the love for my brother and the loyalty I felt to Emma, an instinctive awareness licked at my consciousness. I was teetering on the edge, both terrified and exhilarated, chasing shadows that only deepened with every step back I took. Just as I was about to pull away from the abyss of despair that threatened to swallow me whole, something shifted. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a figure moving stealthily in the background, cloaked in the same shadows that had engulfed us moments before. My heart stopped. Could it be a friend or another harbinger of chaos? Ethan's gaze darted between me and the encroaching figure, a protective stance now anchoring him as he stepped in front of me, eyes sharpened with resolve. The unknown presence drew closer, silhouetted against the dim light, and as it emerged, I felt a wrenching twist in my gut. "James?" I whispered, disbelief lacing my voice. My best friend, my anchor through turbulent waters, stood before me, shoulders straining under the weight of hidden burdens I had never imagined. His expression was a mix of horror and determination that I could hardly bear to look at. "Lily, we need to leave now," he urged, gesturing frantically to Emma, still frozen in fear. "It's not safe. They're coming." "Leave?" I stammered, my heart buckling at the thought. "But what about Emma?" "I can't just trust me," James interjected, a sense of urgency saturating his voice. "If we don't go, we'll lose everything. I didn't come here just for you, I came for Emma too." A sense of warmth enveloped my heart at the hint of camaraderie amidst chaos, and yet a tempest raged inside me. Could I truly trust him? Did I possess the courage to turn my back on the very person who had fought her way into my heart? The decision felt fathomless, drowning beneath the turbulent waves of loyalty and love, shadowed by uncertainty. But even as reality swirled around me, I caught sight of Emma's pleading eyes and the slivers of light from the approaching sirens flashing brighter. My heart ached with the agony of choice, the bonds of love clashing against the depths of duty that pulled in all directions. I could feel time stretching infinitely, a tether pulling me in two opposing places, not just between seeking the truth of my family and the safety of my heart, but within the core of my own identity, woven with threads I had yet to untangle. Just then, among the chaos and voices swelling outside the alley, a voice from my past echoed inside my mind, my mother's, as clear as if she were right there beside me. "You are stronger than the darkness, Lily." "Lily!" Ethan pulled my attention back, desperation tightening his usually composed features. "Please, we need to make a choice." The shadows conspired now more than ever, and the darkness writhed around us, threatening to break free. I lifted my chin, torn between the looming threat of the unknown and the truth buried deep inside my heart. Then, just as certainty began to crystallize within me, a deafening noise erupted in the air, a chilling laugh that resonated like nails on a chalkboard. It came from the second man, his presence swelling, grasping hold of the very shadows that danced dangerously around him. "You think you can make choices?" he purred, a malevolent smile painting his lips. "What you've always wanted is about to be taken from you, whether you're willing or not." The warmth of hope flickered once more, pulsating faintly as the time wore down, fading like embers in a dying fire. "Lily, we can't stay," James said, tilting his head towards the encroaching threat, eyes wide with urgency and fear. And just as I began to step forward, willing to break through the darkness encroaching on us, the shadows surged forward, blasting a rush of cold air that propelled me backward. I stumbled, caught in the tide of chaos, desperation flooding the alley, shattering the moment of choice and silence. And then, as if orchestrated by fate, the sound of sirens bloomed brightly in the distance, drawing closer. But in that moment, I also felt it, a ripple of unanticipated emotion coursing through me, lighting a pathway toward either salvation or doom. In that breathtaking, terrifying instant, the world around me collapsed, and the unfathomable truth loomed like a storm cloud overhead. If those voices promised me safety, I couldn't help but wonder at what unspeakable cost. The cacophony of sirens grew louder, mingling with the pounding of my heart, creating a symphony of chaos that enveloped us. My breath came in shallow gasps as I clutched the wall for support, my fingers tracing the rough surface, grounding me amidst the swirling shadows that threatened to consume us. "Lily, please!" Ethan's voice sliced through the noise, urgency lacing every word. I could see the anguish etched on his face, and it mirrored my own turmoil, a desperate plea for clarity within the haze of confusion. I turned to James, searching for his uncharacteristic intensity to ease my spiraling thoughts. "You said you came for Emma too," I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips as I gauged his reaction. Did that mean I had to choose? Was I supposed to cast aside my sister of the heart for the boy who had once been the anchor in my tumultuous sea? Yes, James acknowledged, his expression darkening beneath the weight of unspoken truths. "But we need to go now. You've got to trust me. Emma's not safe here." Every pulse of adrenaline in my veins was urging me forward, but I felt like a marionette tangled in its strings, held by an unseen force that kept me rooted in place. The seconds trickled like sand through an hourglass, and I was painfully aware of the choices spiraling around me like the leaves caught in a windstorm. The second man's chilling laugh resonated again, reminding me that time was running out. We could either scramble toward the uncertain light or remain trapped in this dark corner of our lives, shackled by fear and weighted by unresolved emotions. I hesitated, my heart torn, and then I glanced at Emma. She remained still, confusion etched on her beautiful face, her reflection of innocence now marred by the weight of our shared burdens. Emma! Her name was a lifeline, and it pulled me closer to the truth I wasn't ready to confront. Before I could respond, I felt a familiar warmth wash over me, a fleeting memory of my childhood, when I de-dressed Emma as a princess and promised to protect her from the monsters that lurked in the dark. I had failed in many ways, but I couldn't abandon her now. I stepped toward her, voice steady despite the turmoil roiling inside. "Emma, we have to leave. You trust me, right?" Her frightened eyes locked onto mine, searching for reassurance in the storm brewing within our reality. The moments we had spent together surfaced, every laugh shared, every sorrow confided, melding into a bond one refused to break. But just as resolve began to stitch together within me like a fragile tapestry, the shadows lurched and coiled around us, seeking to sever our bond. The second man stepped further into the light, eyes glinting with an ominous hunger. "What will you choose, Lily? Safety or betrayal?" His taunt stoked the fires of my fears, igniting the insecurities that had long simmered beneath the surface. It felt as if a fog had settled over the remnants of trust that had once anchored me. The shadows whispered poisonously, sowing conflict between my heart and my mind. A shaky breath escaped me, and I cast a desperate glance back to James. "Ethan," I began, but the name caught in my throat as he shook his head, a silent plea for guidance crumpling the space between us. "Now! This way!" James gripped my wrist, tugging me toward the faint glow of the street, but an invisible cord bound me to Emma. I paused, heart clenching at the thought of leaving her behind, folded beneath the weight of my choices. Ethan, once a pillar of steadfastness, now seemed a ghost of our former selves. The mention of betrayal hung in the air, and I feared a fracture was spiraling into an irreparable gulf. "Lily, please!" He stepped closer, desperation transforming his features into something raw and vulnerable, pleading for my attention. "You can still choose. Don't let him manipulate you." James knelt before Emma, his eyes imploring as he coaxed her toward him. "Lily, we don't have time." The sirens wailed louder, a dissonance in the chaos that marked the rush of time. "Trust us, Emma. We can't let him win." And then it happened. As the swirling shadows lunged, the sky itself seemed to crack. I felt a tremor beneath my feet, a foreboding shift in the atmosphere as a wave of realization coursed through me. "No, she can't," she shouldn't. Just then, the two men lunged forward, one grabbing James and the other reaching for Emma. The horror I had been wrestling with collided head-on, the heartbreaking truth that Emma was meant to be protected, but it could cost us everything. "Run!" I shouted, the urgency of time slamming against me like a tidal wave. But as I turned to sprint after James, a chilling conclusion settled over my heart like a winter's frost. In the chaos, I realized that I might be losing both friends, my brother and my sister, enthralled by shadows, and caught up in an unsettling web of untruths. And in that split second, as our fates diverged at the precipice of fear and trust, the world around me sparked into blinding light, and I caught a glimpse of something deeper, a distant figure stepping out of the shadows, radiant amidst the darkness. My breath hitched, and my mind raced to grasp the enormity of that moment. This couldn't be real. This had to be a fever dream, the silhouette of a person I thought I'd lost forever. Lily, it was a voice soaked in familiarity, yet laced with an edge of heart-wrenching sorrow. My heart pounded, teetering on the brink of a revelation that threatened to collapse everything I once knew. The truth hung before me like a spectre, and dread coiled deep within the pit of my stomach. In that illumination, where hope and despair collided, I stood on the precipice of a choice that might shatter everything I held dear. No, no, it can't be, I murmured, breathless, as reality contorted around me. The figure before me drew closer, each step infused with a haunting familiarity that sent tremors through my entire being. Every fiber of my reality flickered, shaking beneath the weight of my disbelief. How was it even possible? My heart raced, teetering on the brink of hope and despair, as I grappled for something to hold onto amidst the storm. Lily, the voice beckoned again, threading through the chaos until I caught my breath. My eyes widened as recognition slowly dawned, unraveling the tightly wound fears coiling within. It felt as though time had elongated, suspending me in a moment that both fulfilled and fractured everything I knew. Mom? The word escaped in a whisper, barely audible amidst the sirens, but it felt like an electric charge sparking through the air. Emotions cascaded within me, years of sorrow, questions left unanswered, and all the moments of longing that had shaped my loneliness came crashing down like a waterfall, the force nearly overwhelming me. But as quickly as the light pulsed in hope, the reality of our circumstances gripped me with icy fingers. I could feel Ethan and James on the precipice, caught in the wake of the village we were about to leave behind. Their lives were intertwined with my own, and the sirens continued to wail, a prelude to the incoming storm. No, 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 I gasped, shaking my head to dispel the mirage. The shadows behind her threatened to close in again, twisting the moment into something sinister. You can't be here. You left. Her gaze was steady, and an unyielding warmth radiated from her, igniting memories I had buried deep. The laughter we had shared, the promises whispered during storms, every moment of comfort surged back like a tide crashing upon a shore. We have to talk, Lily. Please, you have to trust me. Trust? I felt a bitter taste at the back of my throat, caught between the desire to cling to her and the fury of her absence for so many years. You left us. Left me to figure everything out on my own. My voice cracked, laced with every bit of hurt I had carried all this time. Not by choice, my love. Pain shadowed her eyes, a reflection of my own turmoil. There were things you didn't understand. I thought it was for the best for you and Emma. I never wanted this. What do you mean? I could barely form the words as my heart splintered under the weight of realization. You didn't protect us. You abandoned us. The flicker inside her eyes dimmed, a drop of sadness that weighed heavier than any shackle I had worn. I was trying to protect you from something far worse, something that could come back to haunt you. James pulled at my arm, grounding me, his eyes searching mine. Lily, stay focused. We need to move. Please? His urgency tugged at the remnants of my attention, siphoning away the intoxicating pull of my mother's presence, but this was bigger than us. Layers of my past were unraveling like an ancient scroll, spilling secrets far beyond the simple closeness of familial bonds. Every whispered word echoed through my mind, demanding space amidst the chaos. What could be worse than this? I spat, feeling a rush of betrayal course through me. What could be so terrible that you thought we could handle this alone? In that moment, the weight of the truth settled heavily, the world spun and swayed beneath my feet like a broken carousel. The second man shifted ominously behind me, his smirk widening like a chasm of dark intent. You should really listen to her, sweetheart, he taunted, lurking like an ominous storm cloud above our fragile reckoning. Ethan stepped forward, his voice fierce. We're leaving. The strength in his voice struck a chord, reminding me that amidst this chaos, I still had allies. Yet, my heart mourned for the fractured pieces of my family. Suddenly, the light flickered, as if time itself hesitated over our collective breath. There is something I need to tell you, both of you, my mother urged, voice low and trembling. Emma, is she tied to this? Her fate is intertwined with everything I tried to escape from, and now it's back. Every instinct urged me to flee, to take Emma and run, to protect her from whatever archaic threat had materialized from the shadows. But I felt the chilling grasp of confusion tightening around me. My sister, wrapped in innocence, was at the eye of this brewing storm. What do you want from us? I demanded, the urgency spiraling into desperation, an unwavering plea for answers that could save us. Every second was stained with the risk of losing more than just myself. What I want, my mother replied, an insistent strength forging through the vulnerability, is to shield you. To help you understand before it's too late. With those words, the swirling shadows dipped further into obscure depths. Hope tethered itself stubbornly to the promise of her presence. But the weight of the unknown pulled at my heartstrings, filling the air with raw tension. Just then, the second man stepped forward, a sickening grin plastered across his face. How touching! But time waits for no one. His laughter ricocheted in the confined space, a harbinger of chaos ready to explode. The world around us dimmed, the sirens fading momentarily as dread pulsed beneath the surface. Choices loomed before me, truth and protection. And as the shadows threatened to swallow us whole, I couldn't shake the feeling that our lives were teetering on the brink of revelation and destruction. Lily! Ethan's voice sliced through, jolting me closer to reality. And in that critical instant, with the fragile threads of our destinies dangling in the atmosphere, I heard the sound of a familiar chime, a haunting echo of the past intertwining with the present. Run! I screamed, and it was too late to withdraw my plea. In the heart of this tempest, both the darkest fears and the brightest hopes collided once more, igniting a fire within me that dared to fight. The shadows, however, had their own plans, and as I turned to escape, the truth slashed through like glass, a final revelation that shattered everything I thought I knew and plunged me into a deeper shadow. Emma's silence loomed ominously, heavy with secrets, just as a shocking twist locked. Lily, my mother's voice trailed off, the sorrow spilling into an abyss. She's the vessel. The alley was a cacophony of sound and emotion, my heart racing like a trapped bird in an invisible cage. My mother's revelation cut through me like a jagged piece of glass, and I felt the air thicken with implications I wasn't ready to grasp. I turned to Emma, whose wide eyes reflected terror and confusion, a mirror of my own feelings spiraling out of control. She's the vessel, I repeated, tasting the words like ash on my tongue. What did that mean for us? The threat looming before us seemed to swell, his presence vibrant against the darkness. The absurdity of the moment froze me, a culmination of all the choices I had made, all the paths I'd traversed, and the people I had brought into my heart crashed into a singular truth. Now, what is it going to be, sweetheart? The second man menaced, stepping closer, his focus shifting from Emma to me, taunting me with my fear. A twisted grin broke his features, an unholy promise of chaos and suffering. The shadows deepened around us as my mind raced, desperate to weave together disjointed fragments of thought. My mother's voice, however low and tremulous, grounded me. Lily, Emma's tied to this fate, to everything I sought to escape from. If they take her, but I can't just leave her. The frantic plea escaped my lips, an instinct woven into the very fabric of my being. Emma was my confidante, my family, my light amid shadows. I'd fought too hard to lose her now. I can't let them have you, she cried, her voice cracking under the weight of her realization. It cut deep, the fear palpable in the air. Lily, they're after something we don't understand. In the tempest of confusion, clarity struck like a lightning bolt. What don't I understand? What is it? I called, demanding an answer to everything that had plagued our existence. My heart pounded wildly, knowledge dancing just out of grasp. The shadows shifted uneasily. I could sense the seconds draining away, and as the sirens grew nearer, I felt desperation claw at my insides, mingled with genuine fear. We have to leave, I shouted desperately. Stop running, the second man thundered, his voice echoing with malice. Time is not on your side. You think escaping can shield you from the truth? You know nothing of the truth. I shouted back, anger flaring up within me. a fire igniting against the daunting shadows. We will find a way. But beneath that fragile confidence, I felt the weight of uncertainty deepen. The echoes of the past threatened to consume me, to intertwine with the choices that lay before us, all paths laced with consequences. It was clear that salvation would not come easily, and darkness was clawing at the door. Together? My brother urged, his voice rising in urgency. Trust me, Lily. The growing concern in his eyes urged me into motion, igniting a flicker of courage buried under my fear. I turned to Emma, the bond between us aflame with an intensity one couldn't ignore. We can figure this out. We have to trust one another. As I glanced back at my mother, her expression mirrored the complex weight of loss and longing for protection. You don't understand, Lily. Emma is the key to what they want, and if they have her it could change everything. But I won't let them take her. My words were a lifeline, a rallying cry echoing deep within my heart. That is what you don't get, Lily. The second man stepped closer, and my thoughts collided like crashing waves, everything coalescing into a singular point of desperation. You're part of this too. Your choices are written into this darkness, just as Emma's fate is forever tethered to yours. With a jolt, clarity swept through me, my pulse quickening. We're stronger together, I said, the truth shining amid the darkness that threatened to tear us apart. Just then, amidst that storm, I felt a tug at the edges of my heart, a powerful understanding igniting a fierce determination, intertwining love and defiance. My family was not just a tangle of secrets, but a bond woven through sacrifice, hope, and unfathomable depths of strength. I wasn't going to let the shadows claim us, we were deserving of the light. Take Emma, and you'll lose everything, I challenged, stepping forward, the locket clasped firmly in my hand. You may think you know fear, but let me show you what it feels like to fight for love. The alley trembled, and I raised the locket high, unleashing a surge of energy that pulsed through the air, the shadows recoiling, as if touched by the brilliance of truth. Their grip on us weakened, and for the first time, I felt hope surging within the tendrils of despair. A gasp of realization flowed through the space. My mother's face momentarily softened, a flicker of pride. Find your strength, Lily, she urged, her voice steady despite the chaos. And in that crucial moment, as the shadows dispersed and the sirens drew nearer, I drew close to Emma, protectively cradling her hand. Together, we can break this bond, I whispered, determination threading through my every word. You are my sister, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe. The world seems to spin as we stood on the precipice of hope. All around us, clarity emerged, weaving through the heavy fog of darkness. The figure before us staggered, resistance melting away, as realization dawned. Strength in unity could triumph over even the gravest of threats. Let us go, I cried, pulling Emma close, a solid anchor in this storm, and with Ethan and James beside us, we surged forward, defiance and hope intertwining, ready to shatter the darkness that intertwined our fates. And as we fled that haunted alleyway, I felt something shift within me, a burgeoning acceptance of the truth that we all carried, the weight of our shared past pressing tight against my heart. We had survived the storm before, and together we would summon the strength to face it again. For with every step forward came the recognition that it didn't matter how shattered the pieces were, or how deeply woven the fears ran, within the labyrinth of shadows and uncertainty, love's fierce light glimmered as our guiding star. And as the sirens blared harmoniously with the pounding of my heart, I finally understood, in love and loyalty, we would always find our way home. Home to one another, where darkness could never extinguish the light.